Jesus somehow knew that he needed to lead by serving. That he needed to give of his time, of his talents, of his abilities, of his resources, of his wisdom, of his possessions, in order to make other people's lives better. Because if he could serve them, he could settle them. And if he could settle them, he could reach them. So he came to serve. It says in Philippians chapter 2 that Jesus made himself nothing, but he took the very nature of a servant. It means that when Jesus left heaven and he went through what we call the incarnation, he became like a human being, that he adopted the mindset of a servant, and that he would freely give his life away to make other people's lives better. He said himself in Mark chapter 10, for even the Son of Man, he's talking about himself, even the Son of Man came not to be served. No! He came to serve others. And the ultimate act of service, to give his life as a ransom for many. In fact, Jesus was such a servant who spent so many of his waking hours just serving people that when it came time for those who knew him best to offer a synopsis of his life, years after he left, they said, and you know that God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power. Then Jesus went around doing good. There's his life. Wherever he went, he did good. He served people. He took what he had and he used it to make their lives better. And by serving, he settled. By serving, he gained a hearing. By serving, some would believe. You know what I think? I think our day is just like Jesus' day. In a very real sense, those of us in this room that are followers of Jesus, we wade into a world every day with a message. And the message goes like this: there is a Messiah. There is someone who can deliver us and take away all our guilt and turn us into everything we've dreamed of being and reconcile us to God. There is a Messiah. And the world goes, yeah, right, another one? Some other promise of life and prosperity and goodness and joy and fulfillment. We get bombarded with those every single day, everywhere we go. And we've tried a bunch of them. And we're left largely disillusioned and disappointed. And so right now, thank you very much, but we're going to figure our own way through life. And I am not going to naively buy into this Messiah deal. Our day's like Jesus' day. And people are as skittish as they were then. And so what do? If we care about advancing the Christian mission in the world, maybe we should take a cue from the life of Jesus and serve. Maybe we need to imitate Jesus to the point that we realize that we are called of God to serve the world, to give ourselves away to make other people's lives better, without reservation, without strings attached, simply because we care. And when we lead with serving, we settle the world so that some might just believe. If you've been around at all for the last few weeks, then you know we're all basically putting our archaeological hat on when we come here on Sunday mornings, and we're taking the sacred scriptures and we're excavating the original Jesus movement that started 2,000 years ago. And we excavate it not because we want to throw light on our past, but we want to illumine our future. We want to make sure that we continue to embrace the spirit of the movement Jesus started. We do not want to mistakenly embrace an institutional, religionized form of Christianity, which can only be impotent and hypocritical. We want to embrace the real Jesus movement in all its rawness and all its beauty and all its transforming power. And today we discover that the Jesus movement was all about serving. It was a bunch of people who said, let's be like Jesus and serve the world. And in leading by serving, they settled people so that they could believe. I was thinking as I was mulling things over for this talk this morning, why serving seems so humble? It seems so little. It seems so obscure. I mean, why does it have such power? And as I mulled this around, several things began to surface. And the first thing that kind of surfaced, and I'm going to skip that for now, is this: serving people generates goodwill. It just generates goodwill. You see, it's easier to influence people if they like you. Have you ever noticed that? It's just easier to influence somebody if they actually like you. You know, I went back and I said, in my life, who are the people that had a pretty substantial impact on me and, you know, who I became? And I remember thinking back to elementary school, and there was Mr. Boucher. He was my gym teacher in my first basketball coach. And in high school, I thought back and I remembered Mr. Bruning. He was my English teacher. And then in undergraduate, I remember Becky Baker. She was my speech teacher. And in graduate school, I remember Dr. McLaughlin, who was my primary professor in the area of homiletics and church. And I look back, I said, these people were all so different from each other. And yet they had such a profound impact on me. And I realized the one thing they all had in common was I liked them. In fact, I look back and I said, there's nobody who's impacted me who I didn't like. It's easier to impact people if they actually like you. The early church understood this. They understood that in order to cultivate likability, in order to gain goodwill so that you could have an impact, you served people. Because nothing generates goodwill like serving someone. There's this little synopsis paragraph at the very end of Acts chapter 2 that lets us know the texture of the early Jesus movement and what the people were like and what they did. And it says things like, you know what? Oh man, these people, they were devoted to each other, and they were always in each other's homes, and they encouraged each other, and they'd sell their stuff, and they used the proceeds to meet the needs of the poor and marginalized and disadvantaged, and nobody had any want, because if somebody was suffering, somebody was there to serve and to meet that need. And then it wraps it up by saying this: and they broke bread together in their homes, and they ate with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, and, get this, enjoying the favor of all the people. You know what that means? It means everybody in this metropolis of Jerusalem, everybody in this ancient megacity, they just liked the Christians. Because they just served and met needs. And then it says, and the Lord added to the number daily those who were being saved. People were being influenced. They were being impacted to believe in Jesus, to commit their life and eternal destinies to Jesus, and be transformed by Him. And I would suggest to you that there is a connection. The reason these people had impact and influence is the people in town liked them. And they liked them because they served.